Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I guess I should maybe call it by its more formal name, Behind the Scenes of How Offstreet Powers SJSU's Commencement. We're so excited to have everyone here with us today. Just going to give it a few seconds while folks are still settling in and joining us. But in the meantime, everyone feel free to let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Today, I am personally joining us from the Offstreet headquarters here in Regina, Saskatchewan. Yes, we have a really great stuff content here ready for us today. But first, I'm going to let our Offstreet bot throw a little poll on the screen just to kind of get a little bit of a vibe check, see what we're working with here today. So after you're kind of telling us where you're from, answer that poll really quickly. Little kickoff, give us, some info. All right. So then before we kick things off, I should probably introduce myself. So my name is Kyle, and I'm new to the Offstreet team. Most of you probably don't recognize me. And if you do, it would probably be from a certain video on LinkedIn of me dancing, you know, interesting. But being a fresh face here on the Offstreet team, Emma decided to throw me right into the flames to host this webinar today. And I couldn't be more excited. We have a lot of great content. We're going to be chatting with some special guests joining us all the way from San José State University. We're going to talk about how, some challenges that SJSU was facing in regards to parking during commencement, and then also get into how they were able to use Offstreet to kind of combat those challenges. So it's going to be pretty laid back. So don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat, share your thoughts, or drop comments throughout. There will also be a Q&A period at the very end. So if we don't get to your questions right away, please don't worry. We could possibly get to it in the Q&A at the very end. Now, of course, you probably don't want to hear my annoying voice the whole time. So without further ado, I guess I should start by introducing our special guests. So all the way from across the office, we have Mel joining us from the Offstreet team. If you guys don't know Mel, she is a product manager here at Offstreet. So thanks for joining us today, Mel. We also have Eric and Nock both joining us from the parking department over at San Jose State University. Give a little wave to them. Thanks for joining us. So how this is going to work is I'm going to ask them a few questions and we'll hear their insights, and then they'll answer some Q&A from the audience at the end. But without further ado, why don't we just kind of get into it? So the first questions I'm going to ask, they're going to be kind of to give everyone a little bit of context and hear kind of what your key challenges were. So first, I'll kind of point my first question to Eric. Eric, can you walk us through the challenges your team faced when managing parking for commencement at SJSU?
Certainly. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. When I arrived here at San Jose State, parking every day is a bit of a challenge, but in particularly large events, something like a commencement, uh, is exceptionally challenging. At that point in time, we were dealing with extremely long lines. Many times, they would back up more than a mile back all the way to the freeway, creating havoc, not just for our campus, but for the surrounding community. It required a massive, labor effort of my parking team here, as well as bringing in other groups from around the campus just to assist with directing traffic. And we were always dealing with our guests being very frustrated because of the long lines and the wait time, especially for something as critical as a commencement ceremony. So we were dealing with, complaints and upset customers, and all of these things were taking place. And at the end of the day, after utilizing all of this effort and energy, we were doing this to not make any money at all. And for me, that was just the final straw. We had to come up with a new solution for this process.
Yeah, totally. I think that just goes to show how a parking problem can really quickly turn into an entire traffic problem. So Really great insights on that. My next question I will direct to Knock. Were there any operational inefficiencies or guest frustrations during these events that you noticed?
Yes, hello everyone. Yes, there was several operational efficiency that we had. First of all, as Eric mentioned, it was the huge traffic delay. And the reason for that is because everybody would GPS our campus name or address, and then Google would just directly to our one garage, the south garage. So everybody end up going to the same locations. So traffic back up, and people will be stuck there for 30 to 45 minutes. While we have two underutilized garages that are close by, but we just don't have an efficient way to direct people to use those garages because people are not aware of those garages. Um, so um, so we realized that the way that we need to get people to use the two garages is that we need to use, permanent reservation or prepay to direct people to the garages. Because if people already arrive, and try to, on the day off, to try to direct people to go elsewhere, it's really hard, especially with all the traffic. So reservation is the way to go. The issue was, our system at the time were, that for reservations was kind of clunky, it's not user friendly, it's not reliable. So people don't want to use them. And then the last thing that Eric mentioned was we were doing all this for free. So because we do it for free, we don't have the budget to hire, adequate staff. We don't have proper equipment. So those was the operations, efficiency that we saw. In terms of customer frustrations, the traffic delay was a huge thing. People were stuck 30, 45 minutes, to try to get to the commencement. They were late for the commencement, including the graduates. So they was really frustrated. And then, so some people were like, okay, well, we're gonna try to use a reservation so that, they kind of like get ahead of the game. The problem is that it's complicated and not reliable. So that's caused frustration as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if doing it for free, it's almost like it's a thankless job, but I'm sure you do it well now. So my next question, I'll throw it over back to Eric. Eric, what were the consequences of these parking issues on both the event staff and the guest experience?
Uh, Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, the guest would arrive. They are frantic. This is a probably one of the most momentous occasions in a person's life. They have spent many years. They have spent many thousands, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this education. And here we are at the finish line, and we're creating these obstacles that are making it way more complicated than it needed to be. They've gone through 4 years or more of school, and now you're not going to be able to watch them walk across the stage because of parking. It is completely unacceptable. We were getting the phone calls. They would come in, they would inundate, my administrative team here in the office with all of this, anger and what's going on. Why are we having these challenges? And that came not just from us, I mean, from guests, but also members of the campus community as well. So, that becomes a little demoralizing to them.
Yeah, totally. Okay, now that we've kind of gotten a little bit of a good gauge on the challenges that SJSU was facing pre-Offstreet, I'm going to ask some questions more about kind of how we implemented the solution. So I'm going to direct this next question over to Mel. Can you give us maybe a brief overview of, Offstreet's solution and how it addresses these challenges that Eric and Knock both just described?
I certainly can. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to some of you as well. Uh, First off, I do want to say thank you to Eric Knock and the rest of the SJSU team. I know Alyssa is listening in as well. One of the reasons we really love working with them is because they know how to break the system, and I mean this in the best way. Um, their ability to really push the product's boundaries has been really instrumental in helping us deliver more value for not only them, but our other partners as well. So they've really led the way there. Um, Commencement is a really good example of this. It's a really complex event, like you've been hearing from Eric and Knock. And unlike some smaller events, commencement involves coordination across multiple days and times, the use of multiple parking facilities, and obviously a high volume of guests who may or may not be unfamiliar with the campus, which creates its own challenges as well. Um, I know Kyle mentioned this. We'll be sharing a demo of the solution a little bit later on in the webinar, but I wanted to provide some context on a few of the key features and the problems they've solved for the SJSU team. And so, working with them in collaboration, SJSU ended up setting up custom wayfinding and parking instructions in Offstreet for each garage. And really, this helped them solve that issue of those long lines to the single garage, resulting in that guest frustration and the SJSU team needing to redirect parkers and answer angry phone calls, which is not a fun time for anyone. Another thing they did, which I thought was really smart, was incentivizing parkers to purchase permits in advance, like Knock mentioned. And I think they did this too by offering an early bird rate for guests. And really, this helps guests plan their parking journey and reduces stress on the day of. And on SJSU side, this helps them plan and know where to actually allocate resources on the day of as well. And I think Eric and Knock will speak to that too a little bit more in detail. The last thing I'll mention here, they also set a maximum capacity for each garage and Offstreet. And so this prevented them from overselling permits for a specific garage and sending guests on a wild goose chase to find a parking spot before their ceremony and being late. So I think that helped as well. It's been really fun for me to collaborate with the team on this one, and I think we all learned a lot from it.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Mel. Knock, going back over to you, from your perspective, what was the implementation process like for you? Were there any challenges or successes during the setup of this?
The setup process was quick and simple. After we got on the approval and everything, the Offstreet team already they have it set up within a week and ready for us to use it. So we started using Offstreet in June of 2023. So we just missed the spring commencement by a week. And talk about success. The key success is that right after even though we missed the commencement, we're able to use Offstreet for our orientation, freshman orientation, and we have 16 orientation over the summer. And we deployed the Offstreet solutions, and it was huge success. We didn't have any complaint, we didn't have any question. The students, and visitors were able to redeem a parking permit and go to the orientations. And the huge success we realized is that come September, when we had initial meeting with the commencement organizing team for the fall commencement, in the meeting, all of a sudden, the host or the organizer just reached out to me and Eric and simply said, "Hey, we heard that you have these new solutions that you for orientation, and we thought it was great. We would like to use it too." That's kind of like letting us know, wow, that's awesome. So we really love it, and then we start expanding, the Offstreet, use more. One of the challenges that we had with the rolling out the Offstreet solution at the time was that Offstreet didn't have the GPS direction capability to direct guests where they need to go. The great thing is that we bring it back to the Offstreet team, and just like Mel mentioned earlier, kudos to the Offstreet team, able to step to the plate and develop that feature very quickly for us. And now we have not only the GPS capability, but also a dropping capability that now giving us the ability to actually direct the guests not only to the location we want, but we can actually direct them directly to where they want to go, with entrance of the garage we want them to show up in. And we can do that with the dropping features. And since then, Offstreet have added more additional features to the Offstreet product that really enhance our operation. So great job.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of, big wins there, which is awesome. I think Eric hit the nail on the head in the chat there. He said, "How do you know that you're doing parking right? You don't hear from anyone." And I couldn't be more true. My next question will go to Eric. After implementing Offstreet's solution, What improvements did you see in parking management and guest experience?
What we were able to see and realize after utilizing Offstreet here on our campus was, one, we were able to get information out to folks in a much smoother manner. People were able to register for, their parking, of course, ahead of time using the prepay reservation process. It was very smooth. As Knock had mentioned earlier, our other process was quite clunky, having the challenges and things that we were dealing with. If the student had a car that they had been using, we were having to deal with fixing things on the back end quite regularly. With this process, everything is kind of kept out of your regular parking system. It's just a simple reservation. People come in, they put in their license plate, they put in maybe their email address if they want confirmation back, make the payment, and boom, Bob's your uncle. It's all taken care of. It's done. What we realized though, as operators, now we've got this data that we can go take and look back and look at as a planning platform here. We limit how much parking we allow in each garage. We see how many reservations have been placed in there at certain times of the day. We can now go back and speak with our lead parking enforcement officer and members of our parking team and figure out where we can best direct our resources to help mitigate traffic and help mitigate people coming and going into that facility. Also, we can now utilize people in more of an ambassador role, sharing with them processes if they happen to have not registered for parking ahead of time. Of course, we get quite a few of these folks that show up day of, hey, but they see the signage that says they have to pay. What do I do? And we walk them through it, and they appreciate it that it's so easy to take care of that issue. They can go in and make their payment. Boom, it's done. It's very easy, very simple. And more importantly, we can now direct them to where the event's taking place. We are not just solely focused on getting everybody into a garage and getting them into a parking space. We're now able to help the university and help the experience of commencement be much better, and many of the other events that we host here on the campus.
Yeah, keeping it simple, right? They shouldn't have to think about parking before going into this wonderful ceremony they're about to have. Thanks for that, Eric. My next and my last question is kind of following up on that. Knock, how do you see Offstreet's solution possibly being applied, for future events at SJSU? And do you plan to scale it for, other uses?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that, Offstreet have really solidified, our event management initiative, coupled with traffic demand management to be able to send vehicle to multiple locations or not clogging up the traffic, making prepay permit easy breeze and user friendly. So we intend to use it for our future commencement orientations. We actually did the Mid-Spartan Day event in April with 12,000 people coming to campus, and we were able to use Offstreet solutions to have diverted traffic to 3 different garages, kind of evenly. So that went extremely well. One of the big thing that we start taking on is football tailgating that we start taking on. In previous year, that was run by athletics. We were asked by our university to start running. This year, we had 2 football game that we really kind of start using it and run it with Offstreet. The differences is night and day. I mean, before, I used to feel buying traffic was backing up, at the entrance because they would try to collect money at the gate, and they didn't have a prepay option to get people to prepay and get people to park there. So, since the last 2 games, we didn't have a traffic backup. The feedback was very positive. It's very easy for people to pay for parking and then be able to go to the event on time and enjoy the event. So definitely, yes, we will be using Offstreet to roll out to our other event in the future.
Awesome.
If I could add just one thing to what Knock mentioned there, he spoke about, the lines backing up. When you work in a traditional coin gate situation for an event, you have people coming up and they're having to pay you money to get a ticket or some form to pay for their attendant or parking and then move on. Well, the problem with it is that is a checkpoint or a friction point where people are stopping, they're asking questions, they're doing all these other things, and that backs up the line exponentially. When you're using, Offstreet, they know where to go, they've already paid for parking, they're just coming to the lot, and we utilize our team now more to helping them find that open parking space as opposed to having to stop and collect cash and all these other issues. And it keeps the flow of traffic moving, and there aren't traffic tie-ups on city streets.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Thank you both so much for all of that. As I mentioned, those are all the questions I have. So kind of rolling on into our next little segment here. As we mentioned earlier, we will play now a really quick demo video. So it will just take a really quick peek at exactly how Offstreet conducted, this solution with SJSU through this short demo video. At San José State University's Spring Commencement, thousands of guests arrive over multiple days. Managing the influx of cars and preventing parking chaos was a logistical challenge. Until they partnered with Offstreet. SJSU faced a major challenge managing parking for thousands of cars across multiple lots and ceremonies over several days. Offstreet provided a solution that streamlined the entire process. Using Offstreet's digital parking permit system, we were able to allow guests to pre-register for parking spaces and issue digital permits. Once the guest chooses their desired ceremony on the appropriate date and time, they are then prompted to choose which garage they would like to park in. In addition, SJSU decided to provide extra information regarding early bird and day of pricing. After selecting a garage, guests enter their license plate and see their reservation details, ensuring there's no confusion about timing or location. Here is where SJSU chose to also share additional information with the guests regarding all aspects of the event as well as parking to ensure communication is top-notch. Next up is the payment feature. Once a payment details are entered, the user is registered and a confirmation email is sent. To have a confirmation email sent, all you have to do is enter your email and click send. This will confirm your parking and also provide you with any additional information that SJSU decided to provide. You also have the ability to get directions directly to the parking lot that you are registered for. And that's how the magic happens. Offstreet allowed SJSU stakeholders to register for parking in a few quick and easy steps. Attendees simply had to open their link and enter their license plate number. All instructions were clearly laid out by the parking team. And that's how the magic happens. Alrighty, now we will move on into our Q&A period. So I've seen a few questions popping into the little Q&A feature. Everybody, please don't be afraid. Make sure you can ask them in the chat, but to ensure that they get answered, throw them into that little Q&A feature down at the bottom, and we'll hopefully get to them. So maybe I'll kick this off with the first one. We have a question here. For SJSU, what strategies did you use to address concerns or resistance from stakeholders when introducing Offstreet? I'll maybe throw that one right to Knock.
So, one of the concerns that we had for a question from our stakeholders was always, they concerned about change. They're concerned about, now I have to use a different system. It's going to be complicated. It's technology. I don't know how to use technology. So the strategy that we use is that we would kind of like sit down with them and have a demo, a very quick demo, and just like the video that you saw earlier, when we go to how easy it is that their guests can obtain the permit within just a few clicks, and how that improve the guest experience, and be able to obtain permit ahead of time so that when they come on the day off, they already know exactly where to go with the GPS features, and then they're able to just park and not worry about having to pay for parking, and then they can just go and be on there on time. They would definitely see the values in it, and they would love using it. And once the other thing is that we also, the good thing with the Offstreet is that we can set something up temporarily, let them try it out with a test plate, license plate. They can just enter test, so we know that that is not a test transaction, and they can try it themselves. And when they try and they see how easy it is, it more easily for them to adopt that new options.
Awesome. Okay, our next question comes from JD Weidman. How did you determine the price of $4 for prepay and $10 upon arrival? And will you adjust the price in the future? Maybe I'll throw that to Eric.
Yes, we will be adjusting the price in the future. The reality is that one, again, as we mentioned before, we were doing these processes and we weren't collecting any revenue at all in doing, especially commencement parking. The point was if we knew there was going to be pushback against setting large fees for commencement. And truly, that's not what we were out to do. Our big intent here is to be able to, one, steer traffic to where we want it to be and do a better TDM, logistics control on the streets. We do want to collect revenue so we can help offset some of the cost of having our teams out here working. Many times they're working in overtime settings. Of course, we're buying new equipment. We're utilizing a lot of, vehicles as fuel. And there's also a lot of administrative time tied to this on the back end, whether it's us meeting with, our campus community about the commencement ceremony, setting up permits, the back and forth of documentation as far as notices that are being pushed out. And there is a money aspect tied to that. So we do need to be able to recuperate that effort that we're doing. When we mentioned that we were going to charge for parking for commencement, there was literally what we call a pearl clutch moment right there. Everybody looks at us and gasps, how are you doing it? How dare you consider doing these things? And my point to that was very simple. I mean, guys, one, it's clearing our streets. Two, it's helping for a better customer experience. And then the third thing that I pointed out was look around the campus. You've got vendors setting up everywhere, charging for all kinds of crazy stuff. Why shouldn't they pay for the utilization of our campus resources? These other dollars are literally walking off at the campus. These are funds that are going to remain here and help the university.
Yeah.
To further what Eric was saying, one of the other point we brought up was that, in previous years, traffic will back up, delay, people caught in traffic. The best way for us to solve that issue is to have people to pre-register. That's how we can send people to different garages, traffic demand management. But how do we get people to pre-register and use our other two utilized garage? If you have free parking, what's the incentive? Everybody just show up on the day off because it's free the day off and it's free before. So that's the argument that we have is like, okay, so if we give a discount rate of $4 beforehand and charge people $10 on the day off, our intent was never to charge people $10. We really want people to buy the $4 permit and get people to re-register so that we can get them to go to different garages. And so that point carried really well on the purpose of traffic demand management. The other thing that we brought up too is that, it costs us, just like Eric was saying, to run these operations. With budget, we can bring additional staffing in. We can buy proper, better equipment to direct their guests to mitigate traffic and direct their guests to parking, make it a much better experience for their guests. And they definitely see the value in that. And it's whole true because, in the past event, we're able to hire way more staffing. We able to, get like directional, arrow signs that flashing, with magnetic that we put in different key point location. So we, when we don't have enough, we don't have staffing in the area, people can still follow the arrow sign and just, be able to get to where they need to go. We get palmer horses, plastic cakes, new cones, all that stuff, and we're able to set out and really direct people where they need to go and they create that, smooth traffic flow and get people into the garage.
Awesome. Okay, I know we only allotted 30 minutes here for everyone, but there are some more questions in the chat. So maybe what we'll do is we'll pop up a poll here on the screen just to get one last piece of information from you, hear from you a little bit before. And then if you want to stick around, you can hear us answer a couple more questions. But everybody, please feel free to enter your answer into the poll on the screen. And thank you for joining us today. While you're doing that, I guess we can kind of hop into the next question for you all. Christopher was wondering, how did you handle the guests who did not pre-register? I believe you might have touched on this a little bit earlier, but maybe if you wanted to quickly in a bow wrap that up for him.
Sure. So we're using Offstreet for reservations, but people who not pre-registered, then they come on the day off. They have the option to pay on the day off. Again, virtually. Our model is that we direct the guests in day park first. Then after that, they have to pay immediately after park. If they haven't prepaid, then they can pay using Park Mobile payment, or they go to T2 digital pay stations to pay for parking.
Mhm. Awesome. Okay, our next question, Trisha. Her question is this, if a specific garage is full with pre-registrants, will it not show that parking option? Eric or even Mala maybe as well.
Could you repeat that question again?
If a specific garage is full with pre-registrants, will it not show that parking option to someone trying to register?
I believe it takes that down, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Eric. It will still display the parking option, but it will become disabled and say it's at its maximum capacity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe
You're
we'll
welcome.
do. Oh, sorry.
If I could mention one thing, there is one of the great creative things that when meeting with Knock and talking, with the team at Offstreet, one of the things we actually did, we limited that quantity because we do realize that at certain facilities, that's where people are just going to show up because they historically knew that was their garage because they're an alumni here or they come to the campus. So we leave a little bit of a cushion in those facilities. And that's why we limit that amount that can be purchased there. So people can just drive up and pay and park, and there isn't any disruption.
Right. Awesome. Okay, Jennifer is also asking, maybe Knock, if you want to answer this, what system do you use to check permits?
So Offstreets are tied to our virtual permit system. Actually, for San Jose State, we are 100% virtual permit campus, including for events. We don't take cash. We don't collect all of the permit going through Offstreet. Is people need to register a license plate, and we're using LPR to scan those permit. And we do integrate Offstreet with our Park Mobile and T2 on one platform, so we can all view all the transactions on a single platform. We have the integration with our other partner as well. So it makes it really easy for our team to double check and manage as necessary.
Perfect. Alyssa is wondering, is it possible to customize directions to parking areas if we want to send people down a specific street to get to their parking location? Eric, maybe I'll throw it. Or yeah, Eric or not.
Actually, I'll go ahead and take this one. As I mentioned, Offstreet, the team has been phenomenal. When we brought it originally, we thought, we wanted to have a GPS feature to direct people, to go to the garage. But then we take it up a notch and, bring it to this challenge to the team and say, hey, we want to drop in features. So not only do we want it to, for example, for one of our garage at the West Garage, we have two entrances. But one of the entrances, we have solos that go on that street. We have a lot of vehicles that go into that street. So we would like people to show up on the other entrance, so then we should do a drop-in features, and drop the pin on the entrance that we want people to show up in. And lo and behold, people follow that direction and they go on a different direction, which make it easier for them to enter the garage and not be stuck in traffic and not contribute to that delay of the traffic. So yes, the Offstreet does have the dropping features, dropping capability that you can direct them directly where what direction you want them to coming from or what space you want them to go to.
Right. Okay, we just have a couple more questions here. From JD. do you cap the number of reservations allowed in each area, and does that area get removed from off-street once the cap is reached? I believe maybe that was similar to the question.
I'll go and take this one as well.
Yeah.
As Eric mentioned earlier, we use the traffic event management initiative with traffic demand management. So one of the concepts is that we want to have people pre-register and send vehicle to different garage. Well, how do we make sure that the vehicle are using the underutilized garage? So the way we do it, we're using discount rate to get people to do prepay. But then we set limit on the garage that is more impacted. For example, the south garage, we know that people always shop to that garage. It's very impacted. Typically, we set 300 permit for prepay. People don't know that. When people, when they read the 300 permit, it's gonna gray out and it say the maximum already reached. And then we set 1,000 permit for the north garage, which is underutilized. And then we set about 700 for the west garage, which is kind of like medium use. So when the 300 for the south garage being maxed out, people they want to take they want to take advantage of the discount rate, so they went ahead and bought the permit for the other two garage, which now make them committed to park in their garage, and the GPS features direct them directly to their garage and not bring them to the same throwaway as traffic coming to the south garage, which then divert the traffic to the two garage. And we have a huge success using the Offstreet solutions.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Okay, maybe I'll direct this one to Eric. Christopher's wondering, did you require students who already have parking permits to pay and register in Offstreet, or did you consider normal student permits to be valid in addition to the Offstreet registrations?
Actually, no, we actually instructed students who have already have a parking permit to forego this process. But if you have family who are going to be showing up and they're going to be using a separate vehicle, then they should register. Or if you are a student who hasn't been driving, but you are choosing to drive today, they made that available to them. And this was messaging that's shared by our commencement committee. Their representative there, Adam, sends this messaging out several times periodically throughout the semester, especially as we get closer to the commencement time. Because we don't want to double charge people. I don't want people to feel that we're trying to cheat them in any way. We really want to just make certain that we know the amount of cars that we can anticipate coming to the campus. And that number is just a little bit off because those students aren't registering.
And to further on what Eric was saying, is that the beauty of us using virtual permit is that all the license plate are virtual, and then we're able to change the rate on the pay station and park mobile to the event rate on the day off, and everything go to the same zone. So when our enforcement officers go out and scan the license plate, they're able to enforce, and with the same zone for all the license plate, and all come to the same. It all come to the same zone, and you'll be able to validate whether or not people have paid for parking that day. So if students and faculty staff already have permit already, it's already tied to the zone that they valid for, so they don't need to buy additional permit.
Here's a really good question. Gerald is wondering, how did the integrations with T2 and Genetec LPR go?
It was great. Offstreet, actually, we met Melanie and Emma, the president of Offstreet, at T2 Connect. So they already have a relationship, and they already kind of like know each other. So having the integrations, from Offstreet to T2 is a breeze. It's just a very small time to get that set up. On the Genetec piece, it's just a matter of making sure that the zones that set up on Offstreet match that of T2, and how the access is set up on the back end with Genetec, so that the zone are all compatible or all working together, so that whenever it gets buying a permit for that zone, the LPR also show that it's valid for that zone. So but it was easy to set up, easy to do.
Now we have a question for Mel in here. Which features in Offstreet have clients found useful for event communication?
Yeah, good question. Eric and Nock have mentioned a few. A couple more highlights that we've recently released. One is the ability to attach files to an event, whether this is an event-specific PDF or like a detailed parking map to complement our wayfinding. And that is shared in the event portal as well as that email communication that goes out to guests. The second would be if guests do choose to receive an email confirmation, they'll also get a sort of know before you go email that's sent out a day before the event to remind them where they should be going, what time, additional instructions, etc. So that's been really helpful for teams as well.
Awesome.
And I just want to add to what Melanie is saying. Obviously, has really good ability to communicate that we have total control of as operator, that we can put messages on the portal to give instruction to the guests where they park, what is the regulations or what the policy, and we can put that in the footnote, but also kind of right on top, of their permit selections or when they enter license plate to inform them, and we can make it as, if we require a guest to enter their name, for example, because we want that to be for auditing purposes to reach out to the department, we can make that a required field that they have to enter the name before they can move to the next thing, which is great. So we're able to add, and we're able to turn it on, make it optional or require as needed, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I also want to jump in and say us at Offstreet, we're not the geniuses. A lot of these ideas have come from Nock, Eric, Alyssa, and our other partners as well. So we just listen to what they say and we like to implement and brainstorm together. And so can't take credit for these.
Okay, it seems like people are still sticking around, so maybe I'll just ask one more question. But I do want to be respectful, Nock and Eric and Mel, obviously, of all your time. But one last question, maybe I'll throw it right to Eric. Do you guys issue citations during commencement to those that don't register/pay? That came from JD.
No, we don't issue citations during commencement. We may put a warning out to folks to inform them that they do need to pay. That would be kind of a check and a marker to see how many people we may have found in the garage who hadn't paid. We do, however, issue citations at other large events such as football games or other campus affiliated events that are going on. But when you're at something here that's really trying to build goodwill between the community and the university, let's take a little bit more, a little bit less, a little bit more patience in that process. And we want to be a little bit more customer friendly. One of the things I talk with the team here about quite regularly is that we want to be park rangers and not shock troops. Our job here is to walk around and inform, instruct, to help people as much as we can, not to just be out trying to hit as many sites as we can especially during events such as this.
The beauty of it is people don't know that though. So they still we have a pretty good, compliant rate, because, with all the messages that have been going out, with all of the communications and that being pushed forward, people are responsible and they do, make sure that they have a valid permit to park on our campus.
Right. Yeah, we won't tell them that you're not issuing citations during commencement, but it's good to know you're taking that friendly approach. Okay, well, that's everything I guess that we have for everyone today. Thank you so much, Nock and Eric and Mel, for being here and answering my questions as well as everyone else's questions. If anyone would like more information regarding, Offstreet or how we can help with commencement, please reach out to the Offstreet team or to Eric and Knock directly. Please keep your eyes peeled for more information on when our next webinar will be. Yeah, that is essentially all we have for you today, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you.